Without a doubt, my favourite deck in the format, and quite possibly my favourite deck of the entirety of Master Duel so far, P.U.N.K Thunder Dragons, a deck that I keep coming back to, but for some reason on our last stream, some people were unaware of how powerful this deck was, so I just had to come back with another video talking about it. This deck is incredibly powerful. It's so versatile. I honestly, I can't get enough of it. I play this deck constantly, off camera, on camera. It's just phenomenal. It plays amazingly into things like tier because of its control. It has some really huge options for going for game. Again, featuring some of the most powerful cards in the game, summonable first turn every turn. Things like the Psychic Gem Punisher, Colossus, Titan. Some of these really abusive, powerful monsters, and they're just constantly coming out. So easy to set up. Yeah, honestly, I can't get enough for this deck. Definitely one of my favorites. So we're going to be going through some replays here, then we're going to have a deck profile at the end to address some key cards that I think that people may be looking at, thinking, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Trust me, we're going to talk about it at the end. So if you're interested in that, of course, do watch the gameplay, because I don't know if you've been around on the channel, if you've been keeping up with our videos, then you'll be very aware of how the P.U.N.K combo works and why it benefits Thunder Dragon so much. But if you're not aware, then watch the gameplay. We're going to talk through the combo as we're doing it, and that's the combo you're going to aim to do every game to hopefully at least basically grant you a whole bunch of resources that you can then use to set up the rest of your board. It's pretty important that you know the P.U.N.K combo before you play it, so do watch the gameplay, and then at the end we're going to do card for card the whole way through the deck, just so you know exactly what we're playing, why we're playing it, and why it works. So if you're new around here, or maybe you're not new and you've been watching and just haven't subscribed, I would advise you do so. And if you enjoy what you're watching, please like the video. And not an awful lot of people doing that. Maybe it's because the videos suck, I don't know. But if you do enjoy what you're watching, do me a favor and hit the like, because it does help an awful lot. And let's get into the replays. Alright, diving into game 1 here, up against Tearlaments, wouldn't you know. We're going to start off with an Allure of Darkness here, banishing the Thunder Dragon Roar. That is like ideal turn 1, what you want to be seeing. Roar's going to summon Dark out to the field. Now Foxy Toon's going to drop itself and a Roar to the graveyard to summon out the Omen. Now typically you want to be using that to summon out Deer Note, but because we have Deer Note already, it all works out. So this is the basic P.U.N.K combo. Ignore Thunder Dragon Dark, that's not relevant yet. So P.U.N.K Omen, as soon as you have this card on your field, you're golden. So you summon it out, you're going to activate the Omen. Ideally what you would normally do is you would search for Foxy Toon to summon Deer Note directly from the deck. Because we already have Deer Note in hand, we just need any of our P.U.N.K monster to discard. So Ogre Dance will do just fine. We're going to activate Deer Note, revealing itself in Ogre Dance. We get the summon one, send the other to the grave, so we bring out the Deer Note. Then you synchro summon into the Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. That's going to check the top 5 cards of your deck for any light or dark monster and add one of them to your hand. The rest of the cards going to the graveyard. Now that's also going to trigger P.U.N.K Deer Note to resurrect any P.U.N.K monster in our graveyard. So we're going to go for our level 8 Ogre Dance, and it's important that you resurrect a level 8 specifically, and you're going to see why in just a moment. Revealing the top cards of our deck reveals a White Dragon Wyvern Burster. We're going to add that to our hand, sending the rest to the grave. Then we're going to Exceed Summon, overlaying our 2 level 8s to go into the Zombie Vampire, detaching a material. Now we send the top 4 cards of both players' decks to the graveyard and resurrect any monster among them. Now playing against Tearlaments, what you want to typically do is if you mill a tier monster when you're playing against them, you want to yoink them from the graveyard, because if you do, their effect doesn't activate, because they need to be in the graveyard at the resolution of the link that sends them there for them to use their effects. So yoink the Havness so he doesn't get Havness's effect, then we can just link these 2 off in the Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep being a really integral part of this deck. Thunder Dragon Dark, when sent to the graveyard, will grab you a Thunder Dragon card from deck. We're going to grab Hawk here. Hawk, of course, being the primary method of summoning our Colossus, resurrecting the Roar so we can tribute the Roar, summoning out Colossus to the arrow that Cross Sheep points to. Very important, try to summon Colossus in the middle zone. Reason being, you want to be able to use it with Cross Sheep to get the Cross Sheep arrows effect, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But you also want to summon Spright Elf to the other link zone later in the turn. And you really want that monster pointing at your Colossus. So you're going to want Spright Elf over here, or just on the opposite zone from wherever your Cross Sheep is. And you definitely want your Colossus protected by Elf. So make sure you summon Colossus in the middle. Sometimes even I forget to do that, but it is what it is. Cross Sheep, whenever a fusion monster is summoned to one of the zones it points to, you get to resurrect a level 4 or lower monster. Gonna now link off the Zombie Vampire and the Cross Sheep into Spright Elf, activating Chaos Ruler's effect to resurrect itself from the graveyard. Again, now we're just gaming. Now we're going to Synchro Summon using these two. Going into the Psychic End Punisher, we can summon it over here. True, we could have put it into the Spright Elf Zone to protect it from targeting, but it's already unaffected by monster effects, so we're not too worried about it. Now we're going to banish the Dark from the graveyard, summon the Wyvern Burster. We don't have the materials necessary to extend into an IP Mask Arena here. Unfortunately, we were one extender shy. But it is what it is. We're going to summon out our monsters nonetheless, playing cards face down and passing turn. Let's see what our opponent's got. They are playing Tearlaments, as we already know from the Havness. They've got that Grass Look Screener. We have 20 cards in our deck. They just sent 35 cards to their 32 cards to their graveyard. That is insane. So they're going to go Chainlink 1, Kelbeck, Chainlink 2, Agido, Chainlink 3, Rhinoheart, Chainlink 4, Merly, Chainlink 5, Siren, Chainlink 6, Dragon, Chainlink 7, I hear 7, I hear 7, there's Beast. Do we have an 8? We have an 8, there's Ariel. Ariel's going to banish 3 from our graveyard, and that is incredible. We're going to flip up our Call by the Grave here, targeting the, I believe we target the Merly, and now he's going to activate the Mudora, returning 3 into the deck, Chainlink 10. Mudora, shuffle back, Call by the Grave, no effect unfortunately, the Merly is now gone. Ariel, banish 3. Beast, draw 1. Dragon, pop the Cult by. Siren, shuffle back to Fusion Summon into the Kaleidoheart. Now, we've got Merly, which cannot resolve. Rhinoheart will summon itself, pitching another Rhinoheart. Agido, mill 5. Kelbeck, mill 5. As well as, because the Exchange of the Spirit is now in the graveyard, our opponent's playing Exchange of the Spirit. Because Exchange of the Spirit's in the graveyard, he gets to grab back any trap card from his deck and set it onto his field, and he went with Rebirth Judgment. Now, this is a pretty interesting card. I don't really fully know where my opponent was going with this, but it's a very interesting idea. So that was a bit nuts. So our opponent, and they're not done yet. Chainlink 1, Kaleidoheart, Rhinoheart, and the Halfness. Man, this guy literally just resolved Chainlink 10, and he's already back up to Chainlink 4. What in the ever-loving Christ is going on? This guy is going nuts. He's got Keldo shuffling back 5 of his key cards that he wants to reuse, shuffling back 2 to go into Rilkalos. Rhinoheart, of course, is going to mill the Havness. Kaleidoheart attempts to bounce our Psychic End Punisher, but we're unaffected, so that was stupid. Marauding Captain, normal summon, bringing out the Ariel so we can exceed summon into 10 feet for Redo. Marauding Captain, this guy is absolutely insane. Rilkalos here is going to activate, negating our Spright Elf as he was about to go into the battle phase, sending Rilkalos to the graveyard before resummoning itself to the field in defense. I guess he doesn't have enough targets here. Beginning of the battle phase, we gain 600 attack points with our Psychic End Punisher. We can protect our Colossus from destruction by banishing Thunder Dragons from our graveyard in place of it being destroyed. So our Colossus is here to stay. That was a huge turn from our opponent, but we're definitely still in the game. We top deck in the Amaxi, which is not very useful. We're going to imperm this Redoer just so they don't get any fancy ideas. Remember, Redoer detaches its materials as effects, so he would get to use Rhinoheart and Ariel's effects, which we don't want to do. He has now changed all the monsters in both players' graveyards to spellcasters, but more importantly, he's resolving Exchange of the Spirit. If both players have 15 or more cards in their graveyard, you pay 1,000 life points. Each player swaps the cards in their graveyard with the cards in their deck. So we've got 4 cards in our deck, 31 in our graveyard. He's got 21 in deck, 30 in graveyard. We just swap them over. So now we got 28 in the deck, 4 in the grave. That really does reduce the amount of options we have in terms of the cards in our grave. He's going to shuffle a bunch back here. He's just trying to retain all of his good cards. Redoer, of course, is negated. We're going to normal the Maxi, so we can use the effect of Psychic End Punisher, targeting a monster on both sides of the field, banishing both. That Rilkalos is now gone. Into the battle phase, we bought boost up to 53, taking out the Redoer, taking out the Kaleidoheart, and suddenly the game is looking like it's in our favour. Our opponent cannot search their deck for cards, and they have to get over an incredibly powerful Colossus and Psychic End Punisher combo. They're just going to switch to defense, playing defensively here. They don't have a ton of options in terms of what they can do. We top deck on the Thunder Dragon Hawk, activating the Hawk to resurrect the banished Thunder Dragon Roar, I'm pretty sure. We do have a bunch of banished Thunder Dragons. Whether or not we should have done Roar or Dark is entirely up to you guys. Dark probably would have been a better play. because we could have then used Dark's effect to search for Thunder Dragon Fusion, but it is what it is. We went for Roar instead. We're going to banish 2. That triggers the Roar to summon out a Thunder Dragon from our deck in defense. Of course, the Agido that was sent to the graveyard is going to mill 5 first. So we're going to summon out Roar in defense here. Kelbeck and Beast also activating their effects, milling an additional bunch of cards. Mudora now going to banish itself to shuffle back into the deck. He's really recycling these Gravekeeper's cards an awful lot. I don't know if his deck is attempting to like deck us out or something like that. I don't know what his goal really is, but he's certainly freaking going for it. I'll give him that much. Beast in the graveyard, popping the Rebirth Judgment. It's not an optional effect, unfortunately. Psychic Gem Punisher swinging over the Havness for 4k, taking out the Marauding Captain, and passing turn. Our opponent's got 500 life points remaining. If we had gone for the Thunder Dragon Fusion play, we likely would have had a game on this turn, but luckily we're just going to top deck into Maxi because we're just that good at the video game. Mudora going to activate once more, shuffling back yet again, recycling the Agido and the Kelbeck, plus as many tiers as he can get his hands on, using the Gravekeeper's Trap to lock us out of using our graveyard, but it's too little too late, my friend. There is nothing you can do about the beatdown that is coming your way. He's going to try and predict a Thunder Dragon potentially coming to the top of our deck, but it really doesn't matter. It's Deer Note. But again, we don't care. We normal summon the Maxi. 2 normal summons of Maxi, by the way, in this game. Normal summon Maxi twice. Psychic Gem Punisher, up to 8900, easy lethal. So there you go. That guy was interesting. He was absolutely gaming. I don't know what half of his strategy was, but man's was gaming out of his damn mind. Good stuff in the game number 2. Already getting into game 2 here. Not exactly the most impressive hand here at an initial glance, but we do have a ton of hand traps. Not least so Max C. Maxi's going to really hurt this Live Twin Spright player. They're not playing the Maxi game. We're going to drop our Dark, grabbing another Dark. It just reduces the likelihood of you top decking into one. Hopefully we draw into a more useful card. And it also gives our Wyver Burster material to banish. So Wyver Burster banishing the Dark, bringing out our itself basically. Dark is going to search our deck for a Thunder Dragon related card. We're going to grab the Hawk, of course. I can't remember if we decided to tribute summon the Roar, triggering our Lights effect to grab the Black Dragon Collapse event. We're going to drop the Hawk to summon the Dark. We're going to go into the battle phase. We're going to use that to wipe out both of our opponent's monsters. I figured taking out both his monsters was probably going to be pretty important, because if he's playing Spright, we don't want him to have anything on the field to sort of combo off of, right? So we decided the draw one was worth being able to wipe out both monsters. Would it have been worth the Colossus as well? Possibly, but we didn't go for it. But he just top decks into Feather Duster, wiping out 2 copies of Imperm, which is by no means a small play. Taking out 2 Imperms is pretty huge, but our opponent simply doesn't have the gas to keep on playing the game. We've got the Ogre Dance dropping itself to the grave, grabbing a Z-Omen. Z-Omen normal summon, searching our deck for Foxy Tune. Foxy Tune, of course, having the ability to get summoning. We're going to link off our Thunder Dragons in the cross shape, triggering both Dark and Roar's effect to get searching. Roar's going to summon a Thunder Dragon from the deck. It's probably just going to summon, another Roar. Thunder Dragon Dark's going to grab us Thunder Dragon Fusion. Foxy Tune going to drop itself and our Dark to summon out a Deer Note, so we can synchro summon into Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. We activate its effect, and I'm pretty sure our opponent doesn't hang around very long. I think they've managed to put together that this is probably lights out for them. We do get the mill 5 here, so we're going to check the top 5 of our deck for a useful card. There's a Foxy Tune, there's an Ogre Dance. We decide to grab the Foxy Tune, milling the rest of the graveyard. Now we're going to activate Thunder Dragon Fusion, shuffling 3 back into the deck to go into Titan. Titan being summoned to Cross Sheep's Arrow means we can resurrect a Z-Omen from the graveyard. Exceed summoning into the Zombie Vampire. Zombie Vampire milling 4 from both players' decks, getting to summon any monster among them. We're going to grab our Hawk before linking off into Spright Elf. Spright Elf being summoned to the other side, where we were going to summon a Colossus. Yeah, GG's. There was no winning that at all. Good attempt from our opponent. Again, we maxied each other, so we did. So I don't really like to look at it from a perspective of, oh, we just won because of maxi, because we get maxied as well. But it is what it is. You're gonna need a seatbelt for this one. This one's gonna take a while. We're gonna go for Emergency Teleport off the rip, going into Z-Omen here. Z-Omen searching our deck for any of our punk cards. We're gonna grab Foxy Tune, of course. Foxy Tune dropping itself and a Chaos base to the grave for our Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler then checking the top 5 of our deck like it always does. Dear Note resurrecting the level 8 like it always does. This is a pretty fundamental combo in the deck. You're going to need to learn how to do this because it's not that hard, of course. Easy to learn and very, very powerful. So we get to check the top 5. There's a Collapsipant. Collapsipant's a pretty good hit. So we're going to grab that. We're going to Exceed Summon now into Le Zombie Vampire. Now we're going to activate Gold Shark just to see what our opponent is playing at before we go into the effect of the Zombie Vampire. Banishing a Roar, Roar summoning Dark Chaos Space, and now going to drop the Black Dragon to grab us a White Dragon. We're going to banish the Black Dragon from the grave to summon the White Dragon before using Chaos Space, shuffling the Black Dragon back in to draw a card. That means that our White Dragon now on summon of Cross Sheep is going to search our deck, as well as our Thunder Dragon Dark also searching our deck. I wanted to chain block just in case. I don't know what our opponent's playing yet. I'm pretty sure they had something. Something was activating red on their field, and we were a bit nervous about it. We're going to go Hawk here. Hawk discarding to resurrect the Thunder Dragon Roar, normal summoning the Zeoman, specialing out the Black Dragon, synchro summoning into the Moonlight Dragon. Now we're going to tribute off the Roar, going into Colossus. Colossus then will resurrect the Zeoman from our graveyard thanks to Cross Sheep, detaching a Chaos Ruler, milling 4 of each. Link summoning now into Spright Elf. We now have a protected a protected Colossus and protected Baron de Fleur. We could have just let it sit on the Moonlight Dragon. The protected Moonlight Dragon also would have been a good play, but I decided, you know what, we have the capacity for the Baron, we might as well go for it. Worst case scenario, we use our negate and then we tag it back out on the Moonlight Dragon again. So it all works out. So this is a pretty decent board. So what exactly could go wrong from here? Well, Lava Golem's a good start. Lava Golem's set 5, everyone's favourite. What are you supposed to do? Unfortunately, it just sucks to suck, apparently. We're going to grab another Thunder Dragon Dark here. We're just going to have to see what we can do, what we can make work. Anti-Spell Fragrance flipping up as well as goes and match. We're forced to pick Dark because it's the only respectable attribute in our arsenal. They're going to banish our Chaos Ruler, or sorry, steal our Chaos Ruler before we even get the opportunity to use its effect. Now they're going to go Solemn Strike, paying 1500 life points, wiping the Zombie Vampire off the face of the earth. Unfortunately, they have put us in a really, really tough predicament here. We are going to go Roar. Roar's going to grab us a Hawk. Hawk now, first we're going to use Chaos Space. Chaos Space, shuffling back the White Dragon Wyverburster to draw an extra card. We grab an Ogre Dance. Ogre Dance now going to grab us the Amin. Using Thunder Dragon Hawk, we're going to resurrect the Thunder Dragon Dark in the graveyard, tributing it. Tribute setting it so we can grab Thunder Dragon Fusion. Because it's anti-spell fragrance, we can't use it. So we were left in a position where we could have either... Basically, our options were somewhat limited, right? So our play is Titan. Because it's a light monster, we couldn't have a face-up dark monster if we were going to try and summon it. Now, that could have waited, of course, because of the anti-spell fragrance. I sort of miscalculated that a little bit in my head. But we need to have basically no other attributes. So it's going to wipe out the dark. That's totally fine. We have nothing left to search. We've played all of our Thunder Dragons. But we do now have a live Thunder Dragon Fusion. So we're going to flip up our Fusion. We're going to shuffle 3 back into the deck, going into Thunder Dragon Titan. Now this is pretty damn good. This puts us over the Chaos Ruler. We can take it out. Now the pressure is sort of off, right? The pressure is now back in our favor. What we need to do here is, we of course have the Thunder Dragon Fusion in our graveyard, right? We top deck into Foxy-Toon. Foxy-Toon is nice. We're going to activate Thunder Dragon Fusion in our graveyard, grabbing Roar. Roar now can activate to grab us back a card, but he goes Ace Dragon's Prison here. Ace Dragon Prison unfortunately going to steal our Spright Elf, then banish both it and our Titan. Both of them are Thunder types, so they are. We do get to grab back our Thunder Dragon Fusion, but we cannot activate it this turn thanks to Anti-Spell Fragrance. However, we can tribute our set Zeoman, boosting up our Foxy-Toon by 600 just to get 2900 points of damage across the board. Like I said, this is going to be a grind game, and the longer we give our opponent, the more likely they are to draw into decent cards to out us. They unfortunately have the set pot of Extravagance, drawing into Eldlich the Golden Lord, sending the Thunder Dragon Fusion to the graveyard before we can even use its effect. Now that is a huge blow, because we don't really have any searchable targets left for that card that's actually going to do anything. He does unfortunately have the raw power to swing over the Foxy-Toon, and suddenly it's not looking so hot for us. Conquistador is going to banish itself from the graveyard, setting the Scarlet Sanguine, and we're just going to have to wait and see. We top deck in the Foxatoon, which unfortunately doesn't really do very much. Thunder Dragon Fusion banishing itself to grab us a Thunder Dragon Dark. Chaos Ruler then banishing a Light and a Dark to summon itself out to the field. The Eldlich on his field is going to go down to 2500 next turn, so again, here's just hoping he doesn't have a way to get over the 3k Chaos Ruler until at least next turn. While that is an unlikely hope, it is a hope nonetheless. This man has both a glossy and royal rare version of the new alt art Eldlich, as well as a third regular copy. This man is absolutely balling, committed to Eldlich, something fierce. And we're going to summon out another Golden Lord, unfortunately, from the graveyard. That is going to have 3500 attack points, 500 more than our Chaos Ruler, so the dragon is no more, and he does have the 2500 twice over from his other two Golden Lords. So this, realistically, there's not a lot of cards we can draw into that's going to allow us to secure a dub here. He's going to set another Scarlet Sanguine from his deck to the field. Not that it's going to make a ton of difference, and we top deck into DD Crow, which would have been useful before. It's not really useful now, so unfortunately we have no choice but to concede to our opponent. Floodgates are floodgates. I don't know what you want me to say. It's a tough matchup no matter really what perspective you look at it from. We didn't have any of the cards we needed to counter this type of deck. That's what I'm saying. There's no way you can build a deck that is like a built to take on everything. Even Thunder Dragons have their weaknesses. They're really good against combo decks. They're really good against tier, everything like that. They do have tools to deal with stall, tools to deal with floodgates in the form of things like Titan, but it's not impervious, right? I mean, there are definitely going to be gaps in the armor. But anyways, let's get into game 4. Alright, getting into our fourth and final game here. Quite a decent opening hand. We've got the E-Telly on deck here. E-Telly, of course, summoning out our Xiamen. We're going to activate our Allure of Darkness, banishing the Black Dragon Collapse a bit. Unfortunately, we drew into the White Dragon, which isn't exactly a great look here, but we do have the Xiamen Deer Note Ogre Dance combo set up. We're going to Synchro Summon, into the Chaos Ruler here. Chaos Ruler going to mill 5, Deer Note going to revive. So all is looking well. As soon as you can get to this point in your combo, you're looking good. We of course have another E-Telly. E-Telly is not limited to once per turn, which is very, very useful. We can use that later on. We do hit a DD Crow off of our mills. DD Crow is a phenomenal hit off of your Chaos Ruler. Probably one of the best hits, to be honest. Going into the Zombie Vampire, milling 4 from each, resurrecting our Ash Blossom. Not really any other useful cards among them, and this guy's at least is a level 3 tuner, which is very useful. We're going to bring out our White Dragon, banishing the Dark to grab ourselves the Hawk before Link summoning into Cross Sheep. Now we do make a small mistake here. We're going to grab our Black Dragon that we shuffled back into the deck. Our Chaos Ruler is going to banish 2 to summon itself out to the field. Now we do summon this unfortunately in the middle zone, and even given a second chance to correct ourselves, we still mess it up. So it's not a huge issue, it's not a huge misplay or anything like that. Just remember what I said at the beginning of the video. Try to summon Colossus in the middle, so it's protected by your Elf later on. We can still protect it with Elf, but it does mean that we can't go into like Masquerena or anything like that, because we no longer have an available Link Arrow. However, we do have the Moonlight Dragon to back us up in IP Masquerena instead, so it's not as if we've got nothing. We're going to resurrect the Maxi because more monsters, and this is going to be an example of how this board can be broken. They're going to Kaiju our Psychic End Punisher and then Raigeki our entire board. That is sacky as hell. Very, very, very unfortunate. We still do, however, have the Colossus, grabbing a Thunder Dragon Fusion from our deck as follow-up. They are playing Cyber Dragons, which I find hilarious. Go you, buddy. We're going to activate Chaos Space here, banishing it to return the Chaos Ruler back into the deck. He's going to try and overflow us here. Now, if anyone knows how overflow works, you know that if you don't have any actual Cyber Dragon monsters, as in the OG, if we negate that monster, its name is no longer Cyber Dragon, so it's no longer a valid target to be banished off of overflow, meaning no destruction for you, my friend. We're going to shuffle a bunch of monsters back into the deck to go for Titan here, activating Thunder Dragon Dark in hand to trigger our Titan, popping the monster so we can get some direct damage across the board here. So it is about time we turn this game around here. We're going to grab another Dark from our deck just so we have some more poppage on our opponent's turn. We're sort of trying to prepare ourselves for a Nova play. We can pop now a Nova that we're to activate and try to bring out an Infinity. He's going to go for Galaxy Soldier, dropping a Galaxy Soldier. Unfortunately for him, I mean, that's just unfortunate. That he dropped the Soldier to summon the Soldier, because now we can call by the one that he dropped to negate the one in his hand as well, and it sort of sucks to suck, you know. He's going to end his turn. Not exactly an awful lot going on here for our opponent, which is somewhat unfortunate for them. We're going to go Thunder Dragon Fusion here, banishing it from the graveyard, grabbing our Thunder Dragon Hawk. Now we have one of each in our hand. We're going to use Hawk to recycle our Dark to the field, and our opponent at that stage has just had enough. We were going to use our Fusion to basically bring a Colossus again. We would have had 2 Titans and a Colossus on board. What more can I say? Mans did manage to break our board. I'll give him that much. He did manage to break our board. He did. I'll give him that, but unfortunately he just couldn't capitalize. It is what it is, unfortunately. But yeah, let's get into the deck profile. Alrighty, getting into the deck profile. Now we're just going to go beginning to end here through the deck, explaining each card and why it's here. It is crafted fairly meticulously. There's not, I don't think there's not a ton of room for movement without sacrificing at least some level of consistency. But there are definitely cards you can put in, take out, whatever it is that suits your fancy. Starting off at the top of the list with DD Crow, one of the premier hand traps of this metagame, an SR which is handy, a dark monster most importantly, which means you can add it to your hand off of the effect of Chaos Ruler. Just a very, very solid card. Banish a monster from your opponent, banish any card from your opponent's graveyard as a quick play effect. Just really, really solid right now. You do want to play this in any deck where you're playing the Chaos Ruler, and to be honest, in most decks, full stop, because of how prevalent Tearlaments are. Effect Veiler is very much the same thing. Very effective against Tearlaments, being able to use this to negate the likes of Kekalos on your opponent's turn. It is also a light monster, which means it can once again be added off of the effect of your Chaos Ruler. So again, very, very powerful hand trap. It's like a baby Imperm, right? It's like a baby Imperm that is semi-searchable. That's pretty much it. Just negate a monster. The reason it's not as good as Imperm is because it can only be used during your opponent's turn and can only be used during the main phase, whereas Imperm doesn't really have any of those restrictions, so I would say Imperm is better. We got the double Maxi. Maxi is as good as it's always been, if not better. Phenomenal card. We got triple Zeoman. A lot of people only play 2 of this, and I don't know why. I feel normal summon Zeoman is pretty much like the only normal summon in this deck. So no, we play 3 of it. You can pay 600 life points, searches your deck for any other Punk monster. It's a level 3 Psychic Tuner. I mean, what more could you ask for? Card's pretty solid. It's sort of the crux of your whole Punk combo. We've got 1 each of the Chaos Twins. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to explain these 2 cards. You summon 1 by banishing the opposing attribute, banish Dark to summon Light, banish Light to summon Dark. Explain that a million times. Whenever one of them goes to the graveyard, you search for its twin. So black goes to the grave, you search white. White goes to the grave, you search black. Now there are obviously more reasons to have those. Chaos Base makes them searchable. Striker Dragon turns it into a 1 card sort of a combo to bring out two monsters with no normal summon. So yeah, they're pretty important, absolutely. So 1 of each for sure. You could even double up on your White Dragon if you were adventurous, but we'll get to that in a moment. On to our Thunder Dragon Dark. You can discard this card as a quick effect to add another copy of Thunder Dragon Dark from your deck to your hand, or more importantly, if this card is sent from your field to the graveyard or banished in any capacity from anywhere, you get to search your deck for any Thunder Dragon related card. So ideally you're going to be using that secondary effect most of the time. The first effect does come up here and there in combination with your Thunder Dragon Titan, and potentially if you're going second, you can remove an extra brick from your deck, put an extra dark monster in your graveyard, whatever. The first effect isn't useless, it's just not nearly as good as the second effect, where you want to get searching. The card you want to search for is Thunder Dragon Hawk, which we'll talk about in a second. First though, no Punk Deer Note. Now Deer Note is the new bit of support that actually turned Punk from an okay pure deck to one of the best splashable engines in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! In my opinion. I love Punk, and this card, this is where the magic happens. It is a UR, but you only need 1 copy of it. You can play 2 if you don't believe in your deck, but I mean, just don't be a pussy. Only play 1. Like you don't need more than 1. Basically what this card does, it can special summon itself from your hand by revealing both itself and another Punk monster. That's not typically how you'll summon it, but you can. You reveal both, and you special summon 1, send the other to the graveyard. Again, you'll not use that effect an awful lot unless you like open up with it or something like that. It is good to know that if you do open up with it, it's not dead. How you'll typically summon it though is using your Foxy Tune, which we will get to. But Deer Note can summon itself out of the field, but more importantly, When it's sent from the field to the graveyard through any means, be it Synchro Summon, which is how it'll typically be done, but if it's like Destroy by Card Effect, if it's Tribute Summoned, used as Link material, through any means, if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to special summon any P.U.N.K monster from your grave as long as it's not level 5. And considering this is the only level 5, that's not a concern, but typically what you're going to do there is you're going to resurrect a level 8, according to the gameplay. I'm not going to sit and explain the combo because we did it a million times in the gameplay. So, Dear Note, absolutely mandatory, at least one of. I think at most one of as well. I don't really like running more than one of this card, but you can if you really want to. We've got Thunder Dragon Hawk. You can discard this card to special summon a Thunder Dragon monster that is either banished or in your graveyard. This is a 1-card ticket to your Colossus. This is going to be your primary search target off of your Thunder Dragon Dark. Really, really good card. It is now completely unlimited. It was limited to 1, then it was limited to 2, and now you can play up to 3 of this card, and I don't care. I'm only playing 1. You don't need more than 1. This card is a huge, huge brick if you don't have the Thunder Dragons already set up. You really don't want to be seeing this in your opening hand. You really want to search for it, right? So I think one of this is fine. I don't think you need more than 1 of this. You can if you want, but again, it's just down to how much do you believe in your cards. It's just, you don't need more than 1. It does have a banishment effect, just like Thunder Dragon Dark and Roar. It has an effect where if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, or if it's banished from anywhere in any capacity, you get to mulligan your hand basically as many cards as you want. Pretty useless effect in my opinion. Like in some very, very niche situations, I can see it being somewhat useful if you brick super duper hard, but if you're in the capacity where you're able to banish something like a Thunder Dragon Hawk, normally it's because you haven't bricked, right? There's not really any situation in which you can banish Thunder Dragon Hawk in a bad hand, unless it's like turn 8, right? So that's typically not very useful. Thunder Dragon Roar. Speaking of useful, this card is supremely versatile. 2 main effects. Number 1, of course, like the others, it has a discard effect. Discard this card to add a Thunder Dragon card from your graveyard or banish pile back to your hand. Pretty useful. Primarily, you're going to use that to recycle either your fusion monsters or your Thunder Dragon fusion spell card from the banish pile. So very useful effect. Secondary to that, of course, is its banishment effect. If it's sent from the field to the graveyard, or if it is banished, you get to special summon any Thunder Dragon from your deck in defense, but it is returned to your hand at the end of the turn, so it's not like a defensive measure or anything like that. It's just really good. Typically, in an ideal world, what you're going to do is, through some means, form, or fashion, banish the Thunder Dragon Roar, be it Sark, be it Allure, be it Chaos Space, be it whatever, right? You want to banish the Thunder Dragon Roar. Roar then will special summon Dark to your field. You send Dark from the field to the graveyard, either as Link material, well, ideally just as Link material, technically also as Synchro material you could, but you're normally going to reserve your Synchro summoning to your P.U.N.K cards. But it could be Link material, Synchro material, whatever. Send it from the field to the graveyard, and then that will search for your Hawk. Hawk then will resurrect your banished Roar. Then you can tribute your Roar for your Colossus, which we'll get to in a minute. But again, that's the combo. You saw it in the gameplay. I don't need to you know, I'm not going to say that on YouTube. I don't need to explain it to you, right? You get it. I already displayed it. I've displayed it countless times on the channel. That's the combo. That's how it works. Back to where we were. Blackluster Soldier. These 2 cards here, Chaos Creator, Blackluster Soldier, these are the 2 cards that I feel like people are going to look at this deck and think, what the hell? This card's really good. I really like it. It is, right, to be fair, it is a bit of a cheesy personal option. You can cut this, you can cut the Creator. You can just cut him. You don't even need to replace him. You can just cut him. We're playing 42 cards. You can just cut them. The reason I'm playing them is because too often I found myself in a position where I didn't have targets for Chaos Space. Like, where I open up my Chaos Twins, or I open up one of my Chaos Twins and I don't have the right attribute in hand to get the other one, whatever. Chaos Space then in certain situations was useless. So I decided for Chaos Space we need additional targets. Now we could have done it the basic bitch way and we could have just doubled up on our Wyver Burster and been a little pussy. Sure, you can do that by all means. See, if you want to play the deck like this, go for it. Just not my style. So we decided we're going to play the Blackluster Soldier and the Chaos Creator. These are level 8 monsters that cannot be normal summoned or set. They are light and one is dark, meaning they are ideal targets off of your Chaos Space. They both have the same summoning conditions. You banish 1 light and 1 dark from your graveyard to special summon them from your hand. So again, banishing dark monsters and light monsters from your graveyard is very beneficial. Banishing your Thunder Dragons, very, very good. Their level is very useful, being able to go into your Harbinger, being able to enable OTKs. This guy is an extender. So the Blackluster Soldier, the way this guy works is he can either target a monster in the field and banish it, or if he destroys a monster by battle, he can attack again. So he's either a huge OTK tool, or if you're going to use him as like Exceed material for a Hope Harbinger Dragon, then he gets to banish a monster before being used as material. So this guy is honestly really, really good. 3k attack plus multi-attacks, again, you can't understate that. Sometimes in a simplified game state, that's all you need. But even in not a simplified game state, being able to just target a monster and banish it, while then also being able to be used as rank material, really good. Chaos Creator, much the same boat. Summon it level 8, easy material for your Hope Harbinger, except this guy doesn't banish your opponent's monster, he instead summons one of your banished monsters. You target 3 banished monsters with different names. One of them gets summoned to your field, and the others get shuffled into the deck. Like, that is incredible, because you can basically recycle some of your banished extra deck monsters, while also special summoning a main deck monster back to the field. So this guy is also really, really good. Again, I didn't use these two in the gameplay, they just didn't come up. But these cards, trust me, they're really good. But if you brick on them, if you don't like the look of them, whatever it is, just cut them, right? But they're good. Getting into the last of our Punk cards, our level 8s, the Foxy Tune and the Ogre Dance. These two cards are somewhat similar. Foxy Tune, of course, being the main way of summoning out your Deer Note. Foxy Tune will discard itself, as well as another card in your hand, to special summon out any non-level 8 Punk monster directly from the deck. So your Deer Note, bang, that's it out. Typically, you'll summon Zeoman, either through normal summon or special summon on an emergency teleport. Zeoman's effect activates, you pay 600, search for Foxy Tune summons Deer Note, bang. Zeoman and Deer Note on the field, that's your full Punk combo, go nuts. So Foxy Tune, of course, really, really good. Ogre Dance, you can discard this to add any non-level 8 Punk monster from your deck to your hand. So Ogre Dance grabs you Zeoman, for you to normal summon, for you to grab Foxy Tune. So this is basically just like an extra 3 copies of Zeoman. And I know a lot of people either don't play this card, or play this card at 1. I don't get it. Like, you need Zeoman. You just need it. Like, it's silly to play this card at any less than 3. I just don't get it, right? Because you discard it straight from your hand. It's an extra level 8 in the graveyard. It's a dark target for Allure of Darkness. I just don't get it. So absolutely, I think playing this at 3 is basically mandatory. Gold Sark. Gold Sark, banish any monster directly from your deck. Pick your Thunder Dragon Dark or your Roar, banish it, get their effects, kick gaming. Pretty simple. Allure of Darkness. Draw 2 cards, then banish a dark monster in your hand. You saw this in game 1. This paired up with either of your Dark Thunder Dragons is phenomenal, but even if you don't, there's still a number of other dark targets in your deck that you can use as just a way of drawing some extra cards, right? So Allure of Darkness, little pot of greed, can't go wrong with that. Thunder Dragon Fusion. Thunder Dragon Fusion, you'll shuffle back from your graveyard, field, and banish pile monsters listed on a Thunder Fusion monster. So you're just going to shuffle back 3 of your Thunder Dragons, you're going to summon out Titan. That's it. That's its only use. It can also banish itself from the graveyard, except on the turn it's sent to the graveyard, to search your deck for any Thunder Dragon monster. So typically, in a bit of a grind game situation, what you're going to do is, you'll of course use it, you'll summon your Titan. If they somehow manage to deal with Titan, then what you do is you banish it from the graveyard, banish your Fusion from the grave, you grab Thunder Dragon Roar, you discard Roar to grab back the Thunder Dragon Fusion from the banish pile, and then you activate Fusion, shuffling back the Roar and the Titan, as well as any other Thunder Dragon, and you summon your second Titan. And now you have the place set up again to be repeated. So your Titan is now back in the extra deck. You've got one in the field, one in the extra deck. Roar's back in your deck, Thunder Dragon Fusion's back in your graveyard. You're literally in the exact same position you left on the previous turn, so you can just infinitely do that loop unless something disrupts it, which means that it's like an infinite grind game, which is incredible, especially considering this guy's a 3200 beater that cannot be destroyed by card effects. That's insane. Like, this isn't a card that you can just grind against. It will win if you allow it to. So that's definitely not a strategy that is to be trifled with. That is definitely a tough strategy in a grind game. So yeah, Thunder Dragon Fusion, pretty damn dope. You only need 1 copy of it. Some people play 2. because I don't know why people always say like, oh, you're playing 2 so you can do the fusion loop. Like you can do it with 1. I don't understand, but you can play 2 if you want. I think it's stupid. 1 is fine. Chaos Space. Drop any light or dark monster from your hand to the graveyard to grab a light or dark monster from your deck of the opposing attribute, so long as that monster cannot be normal summoned or sent and must be between levels 4 to 8. Basically, in layman's terms, you're going to drop a dark to search for either. Well, you're going to drop a light or a dark to search for either the Chaos Twin of the opposing attribute. So if you drop a dark, you search light, so on. Or you're going to grab Blackluster Soldier or your creator of the opposing attribute. Right? So if you drop a dark, you're grabbing your soldier. You drop a light, you're grabbing your creator. Pretty straightforward. It also has a really good secondary effect that where if you have a banished light or dark monster that can't be normal summoned or set, bear in mind that's not limited to these 4. It also encompasses virtually all of your extra deck monsters. If you have one of those banished, you can banish this card, return that card to the bottom of your deck, and then draw 1. So it's a really good way of recycling not only your Chaos Twins to make sure that their search effects are live, but it's also a great way of recycling things like the Chaos Ruler, the Zombie Vampire. All of these cards that either banish themselves or will often result being banished through some other means, you can recycle these guys back into the deck to use again later on in the game. Really solid. Again, it's just really solid. Emergency Teleport, special summons the Almond directly from the deck. Being able to go into the full P.U.N.K combo without even using your normal summon is really good. It's just 2 extra copies of Ziyaman. It's probably not as broken in this deck as you'll hear people claim it to be in others, because we don't really have a ton of normal summons, right? It's not as if we're using our normal summon on something else, but it is definitely something worth playing just as 2 additional copies of Ziyaman. Then we've got Cult by the Grave, because it's Cult by the Grave. You have to play it. You just do. I'm sorry. A fact of life. And lastly, Imperm, because fuck Tearlament. And Imperm is a really good hand trap at the minute. A really good trap card in general. So I think 3 Imperm is a... If you're ever stuck trying to think about what hand trap you should be playing, the first thing you should go to is Imperm, in my opinion. I think that's your go-to. Then Maxi, then probably DD Crow. I feel like that's... Generically speaking, of course, unless you have a particular hand trap that generates some form of synergy. If you're just looking at like what hand traps are the best or what hand traps should I play, Imperm first, then probably Maxi, then DD Crow. Or maybe you could say Maxi first and then Imperm, whatever. But that's sort of like the 3 go-tos at the minute. You of course have a bunch of others in the middle, Ash Blossom, Veiler, Droplet, whatever. But those, I think Imperm, Maxi, and DD Crow are definitely the big 3 right now. Getting into the extra deck. Now, the thing I love about this deck is it actually takes advantage of every summoning mechanic from the extra deck, which I don't know, I just love. Aesthetically pleasing. So, of course, we've got our Thunder Dragon fusions. We have the Colossus, which can be special summoned to your field by tributing any Thunder monster, so long as you have used the effect of a Thunder monster in hand. For example, any one of your discard effects. So long as you've used the discard effect, you can tribute any Thunder Dragon to summon Colossus out to the field. Now, that's why we're trying to set up the combo. So, Dark will search for Hawk. Hawk will resurrect one of your Thunder Dragons, probably the Dark, or if you have a banished row, that's even better. And then you just tribute whatever Thunder Dragon you summon to go into your Colossus. We did it a million times in the gameplay. So long as this guy's face up, your opponent cannot add cards from the deck to the hand except by drawing them. That means no searching their deck for cards, which shuts down some strategies automatically, right? No more Flounderies. Flounderies, you are useless, dead, gone, finito. But there are other aspects of different decks that it also shuts down, for example, Silic's Graveyard Effect, things like that. No more searching for you. We have Thunder Dragon Titan, which we've already sort of talked about in terms of its utility with Thunder Dragon Fusion and Roar. This card, sorry, I should mention, I always forget to mention this, Thunder Dragon Colossus and Thunder Dragon Titan both have built-in protection. Thunder Dragon Colossus can protect itself from any form of destruction simply by banishing a Thunder monster from your graveyard. Titan can protect himself from effect destruction by banishing any 2 cards from your graveyard. Now, he can be destroyed by battle, but 3200 attack and defense isn't exactly the easiest thing to get over. So there is that. So long as this card's face up, if you activate the effect of a Thunder monster in hand, you can quick play, chain this card, to pop a card your opponent controls. Now that can be chain blocked. It is non-targeting though, so pick your poison. Really, really solid effect, to be honest, especially when you're playing against floodgates, being able to pop back row without targeting, being able to pop monsters without targeting. Really, really good card, especially in sort of like back row games. So Titan, absolutely. You need 2 of it so that you can do your whole Thunder Dragon fusion loop. If you're only going to play 1 Titan, there's literally no point. There's literally no point in playing just 1 Titan. If you don't want to play 2, don't play any of it. Drop the fusion and just focus on Colossus. Literally. But that's dumb, so we're not doing that. Getting into the synchros, we've got the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. This is admittedly one of my guilty pleasures recently. You don't absolutely need this card, definitely not, but it is definitely really, really good as a generic level 7 synchro monster. So basically, when it's summoned, or if your opponent were to at any point special summon a level 5 or higher monster to their field, you can bounce a special summon monster back to their hand. Really good at dealing with Kekalos. Really good at dealing with, well, just Tearlaments in general, because they use high level monsters, right? Just bounce their fusions back to the extra deck. It completely subverts all of their protections and things, unless they have something like a Sulik ready to go. What are they going to do about it? You know what I mean? It's pretty nice, I'm not going to lie. Moonlight Dragon definitely really handy in that particular matchup. Then you've got the Shooting Razor Dragon, which is more of a toolbox card. Doesn't see a ton of play, if I'm being honest with you. Basically, when this card is summoned, you send a monster from your deck to your graveyard, and this card's level gets reduced by that monster's level. So almost every time what you're going to do is you're going to pitch a Thunder Dragon Dark, turn this card into a level 2, and then you can combine that with any of your level 8s, which you play a ton of, to bring out Baron de Fleur. And that's why Baron is here. If you don't want to play this, don't want to play Razor, drop Baron, right? You can drop the 2 of them, there's 2 extra deck slots freed up automatically. But it is pretty solid, if I'm being honest. It is decently solid. I don't use it a ton, so if you wanted to cut it, by all means. But it is pretty useful. This card, however, mandatory. At least one of, maybe even more. But at least one of this. When it's summoned, check the top 5 cards of the deck. If there happens to be a light or a dark monster among them, you can add one of them to your hand. Otherwise, you're just pitching them all to the graveyard. You're going to summon this card every single game off of your P.U.N.K combo, and the idea is to just plop as many of these big cards, your lights or your darks, your Thunder Dragons, whatever, into your graveyard as possible, while hopefully grabbing the likes of DD Crow and Effective Healer to your hand. Can't go wrong with extra hand traps. So Chaos Ruler, absolutely mandatory, especially considering its second effect, where you can banish a light and a dark from your graveyard to resurrect this card. Very good. So it's mainly here, obviously the effects are both brutal, but its level is also super useful as well, being a level 8. Means we can use it for some Exceed summoning, which we'll get to in a moment as part of the combos we've already shown off. Baron de Fleur, briefly talked on it. It is a level 10 generic synchro monster. You can summon it off of your Shooting Razor Dragon. There's not really a ton of other situations in which you'll summon this card, so don't get too attached to it. You'll not really use this very often. Then our last synchro monster, probably one of the most powerful in not only the deck, but the game. This card, I am convinced, is super underrated. The Psychic End Punisher. So long as your life points are less than your opponent's, this card is unaffected by activated card effects. Automatically really good. Super difficult to get rid of. Once per turn, pay 1,000 life points to target a monster in your field, and any card on your opponent's field, banish both. Spot removal while lowering your life points to make sure you retain your unaffected effect. Excellent. And what's even better is at the start of each battle phase, this card will gain attack points equal to the difference in yours and your opponent's life points. So he gets huge. It's already huge 3,500, gets boosted to high heaven from that effect, and it stacks. It's not until the end of the turn, it's not until the end of the battle phase, it's until the end of the duel. It's until he gets wiped out. He keeps that boost, which is insane. We run a couple of Exceeds. Hope Harbinger, generic, rank 8, once per turn to get a spell, suck it up as well, so it doesn't go to the graveyard or anything. Pretty handy. Mainly here because you do have a decent amount of level 8 spam, but you don't really use this card an awful lot. If you don't have it, sub it in for something else. I wouldn't say it's worth, I wouldn't say you would need to craft this card just to play this deck, definitely not. But what you would need to craft is this fella right here, the Zombie Vampire. Detach material, mill the top 4 from both players' decks, take any card among all 8, and summon it to your field. Like, the information that they get, first of all, the information, right? You know exactly what your opponent's playing. Second of all, the advantage of milling out your deck. You're putting more Lights and Darks, Thunder Dragons, whatever's into your graveyard. Thirdly, you now have 2 monsters on board. And you can just get playing from there, because you're almost certainly going to have a bunch of extenders in the form of your Thunder Dragons. There's no shot, like, again, this will be a total of 9 cards milled to your graveyard, and you have to remember, you're going to be able to banish a Light and a Dark from your grave to summon out your Chaos Ruler, which means that if you have any sort of Thunder Dragon or anything in your graveyard, it's automatically live thanks to the Chaos Ruler. So, phenomenal cards, phenomenal combos, absolutely mandatory. This is more of a toolbox card here, Striker Dragon. You can tribute off one of your Chaos Twins to summon out the dragon. That's going to trigger your Chaos Twins to search the deck for the other one, which you can then summon, right? So the idea is that by having this 1 card in your extra deck, you can turn 1 Chaos Twin into 2 monsters. Pretty straightforward. You don't have to play this, but it is a useful toolbox card. Masquerena. So Masquerena is pretty damn amazing, especially in a deck like this that does a whole bunch of generic sort of summoning. Quick effect, during your opponent's main phase, link summon, and any card that uses this monster as link material is indestructible by card effects, basically, which is pretty solid. I like pairing this with Avramax more and more nowadays. So I would be tempted, again, if you want to cut Baron, Shooting Razor, or Hope Harbinger, a really good option to put in would be Mechna Crusadia Avramax. I would be super tempted to cut the Harbinger just to put this guy in, and then maybe drop the level 8s. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. Again, there isn't like one fits all sort of mold for this. But Avramax alongside IP Masquerena is definitely very, very powerful, especially now considering the top deck is Tier, and they don't really deal with that very well. Especially after they've already had to deal with like a Psychic Gem Punisher and a Colossus. What they're getting through these two, and then having to still go through an Avramax, they're not having a good time. They are not enjoying themselves. We've got Cross Sheep. This card will gain effects whenever a monster is summoned to one of its zones. Once per turn, it can activate as many of the following effects that apply to it as possible. So the ones that we'll be using primarily, if a fusion monster is in one of the arrows, you'll special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. If a synchro monster is in one of the arrows, all of your monsters permanently gain 700 attack points. So typically you're going to summon Colossus to one of its arrows. Colossus then is going to resurrect your Zeoman. The reason we're doing that, and the reason we're playing Cross Sheep, is we really want to abuse the Zeoman as much as we can because it's our primary tuner. Because that's our primary tuner, we want to recycle it as much as we possibly can. Pretty straightforward stuff. The attack boost also doesn't hurt. Like a 3300 attack Colossus, yikes. Spright Elf. One of the newest additions to the deck suggested on stream. This card's really useful. It's primarily here, if I'm being honest, as a way of utilizing the Cross Sheep after it has activated its effects, right? So after this card has used its effect, it feels a little dead. It's just sort of sitting there, looking stupid, with 700 attack points, and kind of worthless. So what we do is we take that and we turn it into a Spright Elf. Spright Elf will protect anything it points to from being targeted. Anything it points to can't be targeted. So suddenly you're dealing with a 3300 attack Colossus that can no longer be targeted by card effects. That's not easy to get rid of, especially not if you've got the extra sort of monsters behind it, Psychic Gem Punisher, Hope Harbinger, whatever. It gets up very, very difficult to deal with. I'm a little bit obnoxious, if I'm honest. So Spright Elf, it also has the ability to resurrect a level, link, or rank 2 monster once per turn as a quick effect. We don't use that very often unless you manage to go into the likes of Masquerena, in which case, awesome, good for you. If you don't manage to go into Masquerena, then it's not that good. But I mean, extra bodies on board is extra bodies, so what are you gonna do, complain? It's mainly here for its targeting protection, but I mean, the resurrection effect is also decent. And finally, we have Nightmare Unicorn to round out my rambling. This is the target meant to be summoned off of Masquerena. On summon, spin a card back into the deck. Good stuff. So there are obviously there's a lot of room in this deck for a little bit of personalization, but most of the deck is pretty much set in stone. So you can remove your level 8s if you really want to. You can remove the Hope Harbinger, Baron, and Shooting Razor if you really want to. And customize it from here. I would be tempted to put an Avramax over the Harbinger, if I'm honest. I would probably play it closer to something like this, maybe. But I mean, again, it is entirely up to you, entirely. So that's everything I've got. If you got this far into the video and you haven't liked or subscribed yet, I don't know what you're playing at. But if you want to help a boy out, I would appreciate it. Liking the video does help an awful lot, as well as subscribing. And if you have got this far, thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.